opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know. Democracy in Spice Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too, agricultural, environmental and trending to subject matter. We fear none, we back down. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom, jealous and they in Cuba, Russians and Chinese and lucky like we. Right now, North Korea, wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome back to our program on Studio Galaxy 473
in Conferro.
And you definitely are with the Galaxy Equalizers. You remember the number to call is 536-2558. You can make your comments. We're going to share your comments once we're able to. Studio Galaxy 473 in Conferro. And on the Galaxy Equalizers today, well, you have your humble servant. You can participate. Give us a call. Pick up the telephone and give us a call. We always encourage you to subscribe to Studio Galaxy. Subscribe to the program. Like the program. Share the program. And the topic today is corruption. Corruption at the biggest level will break the island. There's no question about that. If we continue with the level of corruption that we're having, it's going to break the island. But we must give some understanding what really is corruption. And we're going in the dictionary. Dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. So we're encouraging you, call your children and ask them to research for you what is corruption. When we say corruption, what we mean, dishonesty or fraudulent conduct by those in power. And it's typically involve bribery. And I in tongue long. And I have never heard this level of rumors and speculation about corruption in our country in all my band life.
Really?
During the period of Eric Gary, there was a lot of accusation against Gary. And it was more of excesses in terms of police brutality. They say Gary has secret police. Kennedy Boudlal would have tell you the names of some of the secret police Gary had and how much conviction they had in court. You would hear that Gary was eccentric. And he said he could walk on water. And some people accuse Gary of saying that we're going to bring boat come up the river. Gary said boat, they say banana boat. And they would say that Gary couldn't read and he dunce and etc. But I've never heard the level of accusation against Gary about corruption and bribery. We had the revolution. And you know Maurice Bishop was a criminal. He jailed Grenadians with impunity. He took away our freedom of expression. People were executed. People were castrated. Some women from the north, they put them lie down on the ground and walk on the back. But we have never heard this level of corruption and bribery associated with Bishop. We can't say that the things Bishop was doing was because of greed or because of money. It was a question of ideology. And if you're against the revolution, they want to put you under heavy manners. They call you a counter-revolutionary and CIA agent. Bishop collapsed. And we said already that during that 4.5 years, Maurice Bishop and his crew supervised over the worst crimes in Grenada history after slavery and colonialism. But you would not hear us say that Bishop was corrupt. Bishop did not live exorbitant gala life. We do not believe that it was about money. They live relatively frugal. But they believe because if you didn't support communism or socialism or Marxist-Leninism or Bishopism, you were counter. Then Mr. Blaze came in and say disciplining people. And some people had issues with Mr. Blaze, and they introduced the retrenchment program, the structural adjustment program, and they retrenched workers. And we had demonstration against Mr. Blaze. And at that time, Margaret Thatcher and Reagan had a policy of privatization. And it seems as though they claimed that Grenada, they had to privatize things and etc. We had a lot of opposition. But you did not hear us, people, all these rumors and speculation about corruption with Mr. Blaze. We had the NDC. They cut down Belvedere nutmeg and plant banana. And people say they're mad. And there were other acts that they took that stoned Grenadians. And they had the structural adjustment program, and they cut social programs. Some workers were fired. But they claim they do it to balance the book. But we did not hear all this level of corruption against this government. And we had the Kit Mitchell era, a long era. And the opposition jumped up on corruption against Kit Mitchell. They say he got $50,000 in Switzerland in a Louis Vuitton briefcase.
Any briefcase?
Yeah, Louis Vuitton. And that is when Kit said, Kit disputed what they say. But Kit, the Governor General, then set up an inquiry into this $50,000 issue. A jurist from Barbados was brought down. And the opposition was invited to champion the case. I think Nazim Bok was a lawyer. Tillman was a lawyer. The NDC always packed with lawyers that done good. And they had another lawyer that's claimed within 9 days, FBI and Scotland Yard would be in Grenada and they go lock up Kit. After the election, they brought him to court. He had to apologize and say, just say that so. The NDC government set up a committee, Lloyd Noel, I believe, was on it, to inquire into excesses and corruption of the NNP. And they bring down a forensic expert, a financial forensic expert came down to Grenada to hunt for evidence to lock up NNP members. And after they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, there was no credible evidence. And I repeat, no credible evidence that there was the corruption in NNP that the NDC claimed. So between 2008 2013, NDC set up the forensic expert to come down here, and they were not able to find one iota of evidence, of substance, to even charge any NNP member for driving without due care and attention. No evidence. But during that period of time, Mr. Tillman Thomas fired the Attorney General for corruption. And they lay a charge against another individual who was closely associated with them, Fullerton, for corruption. So the only people that was charged or was disciplined, that's a better word, one was charged, one was disciplined, was two members of the NDC, no NNP members. So a lot of people believe that the accusation of corruption during the NNP time was manufactured in the lab by NDC members. But today in our society, there seems to be credible evidence. So much of rumors and speculation from day one by the government that be. There seems to be credible evidence that this government is corrupt. There is enough evidence for there to be investigation. Take, for instance, the Grenada Development Bank. Since 1973, the regulation was put in place during the era of Eric Gary to prevent ministers, directors of the bank, and the immediate family from getting money from the bank. The Deacon-led government could have gone and changed the regulation. They did not change the regulation. They flaunt the regulation with impunity. And they provide millions of dollars for ministers of government. One of them we heard is same Andy William. Directors on the GDB Bank took loan from the bank. They give themselves loan. And other top echelons of the NDC. The government raised the money in less, as soon as they come in. They say they can't work for that. They don't start to work yet, you know. They raise their money. There is also rumors that the government is accepting gifts from companies. And we heard, and we've been asking to verify, but because the government policy is information on a need-to-know basis, they are not clarifying it. So the rumors and speculation in the country continue to grow. We heard that the gift, one of the gifts received by the Prime Minister of Grenada is valued in the excess of 30,000 US dollars. That is enough for the Governor General to establish, bring on a jurist to investigate that. To add fuel to the fire, the very said company that it is rumored that gave the Prime Minister a gift in excess of 30,000 US, we heard, had concession on the port and occupy the port, and other goods of Christmas could not have been provided for other customers, other customers, because the individual was provided free concession. So we believe that is a direct kickback for the gift that was given. We ask the question, who is the third party directing our foreign policy? And we believe money was passed, cash or kind. Nobody gives up that authority without substantial benefit that would sabotage the patriotism. We believe the Prime Minister of Grenada, patriotism was sabotaged because of what he received to hand over the direction of our foreign policy to a third party. This seems to have affected the foreign minister greatly. We genuinely believe that the foreign minister was emasculated. And from then on, he seems not to be sure of himself. Immediately after that, he was choking. Anytime he go on a program, he choking, he can't speak. They have to bathe him, give him water. We saw another picture on social media where that which is around the Minister of Foreign Affairs' neck was being palpated. And when we look at his demeanor and his face, if he was close to a peace tree, he'd have picked out all the leaf. We realize that the Prime Minister of Grenada was the de facto Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was traveling more than the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The Minister of Foreign Affairs was removed from the agenda to speak. And it seems that he was being disciplined. He has not said anything publicly, but when we look at his demeanor, his expression, it seems that this man is emasculated and domesticated for public ridicule. He stays quiet, but we are mindful that the Prime Minister have a policy of paying for good relationship. So it is reasonable for us to believe that this gentleman is only staying quiet because he is properly remunerated. We have never seen that in our country before. We heard stories where a minister gave his landlord a contract for 90,000. The landlord subcontract the said contract for 50,000. And the contractor finished the contract in less than 1 week. We are aware of the fact that the government went to Parliament and amend the procurement rules and regulation so they could raise the amount of money that they give in a contract without bidding from $15,000 to $100,000. When you do that, you are deliberately dismantling the rules and regulation to avoid corruption. You dismantling the disciplinary, the economic discipline that is put in place to prevent temptation to avoid people getting corrupt. And let me spend some time on this one. From time to time, government ministers provide contract for people to do work. But it was necessary that if an individual have to do any work, more than $15,000, that work, that job then you have to bid for it. And you have to have at least 3 persons bidding for it. The government moved that threshold from 15,000 to 100,000. You see, these things are important because most of the islands in the Caribbean have a serious problem with economic discipline. And when they are in trouble, they go to the International Monetary Fund. And the fund come in the country to help them to manage the economy. The IMF don't volunteer to come to you. You have to go to the IMF for help. On 3 occasions, Grenada have had IMF program. And laws and regulation and discipline, economic discipline, was put in place. And this government under Dick Mitchell is dismantling the economic discipline put in place to manage the economy. Now, this is significant because Dick is a lawyer. So Dick in a position to understand the justification and the reason why the economic discipline was there. Sometimes we have to be careful, you know. Small economies like ours, people lobby for a share in the cake or the pie, or whatever you want to call it. You have strong bodies and organizations like the trade union. They are very powerful. They could close down the country if they want. Yeah. You have the Chamber of Commerce, the business sector. They're very, very powerful. They're very sucker. And a lot of time, they are the financial sponsors of the political party. And they basically want an environment where they could make money. They don't want to be taxed unreasonably. And they want to make money. And every now and then, when they default on tax, they want the government pardon them. Mm-hmm. So they're very powerful. We have the Cocoa and Nutmeg Association, what you might call the farmers' representative in the House of Parliament. They are in the upper house. And they are in a position to lobby on behalf of the farmers. Then you have the ordinary man whose interests supposed to be sick by the parliamentary representative in his ear. We heard stories very early that number 10 was provided with $160,000 plus. That is what we've been hearing. That is the only figure we've been hearing. So we believe that there may be some truth in it. Mm-hmm. And when we ask questions, no answer is coming. We heard the claim by Ron, an elected member of Parliament, that he got a gracious offer. When he was technically removed from the cabinet. The Prime Minister publicly removed him from the cabinet.
Technically.
I understand he never leave the cabinet. He always in the cabinet. And he speak over his cabinet colleagues. He was given $100,000. Well, in that case, we heard he lobby. They offer him 60. He said no, eventually they give him 100,000. That is what we're hearing on the ground. The NDC policy of information based upon need to know is giving fuel to the rumors that are spreading. We spoke excessively on other programs on the fact that the government members, the top members, the powerful members of the NDC, the top echelon, they are agents selling passports. And that have to be a no-no. And we pointed out to them, if you are agents selling passport, then who is going to bail the cat?
Bail the cat.
It means that you are the chief cook and bottle washer. Who is going to verify what you do?
Yeah, that's the problem.
The Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and Andrea St. Bernard is very powerful people in the NDC. Your foreign minister is, your finance minister is always a powerful post. Now we are hearing about the CBI fiasco. You heard Ralph Gonzalez compared to a former prostitution, you know.
Yeah, man.
He said they want to sell as much as they could, as fast as they can.
Yeah, as fast.
As much as they could, as fast as they could.
Because it's going to go bad.
They know it's going to go bad.
Yeah, it's going to go bad.
And they want to make money by the hook or by the crook.
We're eating no.
We saw the situation with Mr. Forrester. Mr. Forrester had his issue with the previous political party. And the only reason that we heard, there might be others, that he didn't get a passport, he was dissatisfied with the other government not giving him a diplomatic passport.
Yeah, but you have to qualify for it.
We saw now that he has his diplomatic passport. He is the ambassador of the diaspora. And a post he is quite capable of keeping and having. But if Mr. Forrester, while he is ambassador to the diaspora, not NDC diaspora, not NNP diaspora, the diaspora, it is unethical for the Mr. Forrester to be so deeply involved in the NDC propaganda machine. Because he represents the diaspora, not NDC diaspora. That is corruption. We heard stories that shock us. Public officers, prominent secretary are sharing out 15,000 for contract cash, you know. It appears they get the check. Let us suppose the check is on John Galt's name. They accompany John Galt to the bank, draw out 40,000, and come back and give him 15. These rumors and speculation are acts of corruption. And it is at the biggest level ever in our history. And it will break the country. It is a formula for low productivity. It's going to cause the corruption philosophy to have a rippling effect on the ground. It's going to deteriorate. We heard stories where 16 million was given to MIT minister and the ministry for housing. Well, if you have a ministry of housing, why is it MIT responsible for housing? Ask yourself this question. And MIT is a new ministry that was made with some illegality when it started. They couldn't even wait for the budget to create that corrupt ministry. I've always felt that the opposition and the trade union should object to the starting of MIT and call for it to be disbanded. From day one, I was calling for that. The Prime Minister said in an alien land, words to the effect, that we campaign on a policy of transformation in truth. But it is not transformation. It is more restorative justice. Those were the sum total of the words of the Prime Minister of Grenada. So in that capacity, I objected strongly to MIT and always felt that the opposition did not do justice when they did not call for that ministry to be disbanded. The unions also should call for it, because the unions must be well aware that corruption at the biggest level now existing in Grenada will break the island. It's going to contribute to low productivity. We'll have deterioration in integrity, morality, and it's going to give rise to violence and other social decadence. There are so many voices in Grenada who used to be championing accountability, transparency, and good governance. Those voices have gone quiet. They are dormant. They've gone to sleep. They escape in a cocoon. And based upon the government policy, that is going to pay money for good relationship, it is reasonable for us to ask if these voices are being paid or if they have given money to have a good relationship with government. Let us look at the excessive traveling of the government. We believe that this traveling is a means for the government to enrich the coffers. Every time they travel, they have to be given podiums, hotels, food, gala lives. And they are traveling with great regularity. In a period of time when technology is at its best, and you could use Zoom for meetings. The government is going in every meeting, all over the world. And we believe the government is using this to enrich themselves. And that is corruption. We have heard stories that one minister travels with a bow. She bow behind. And she running up hotel bill in the excess of 30,000 US. And I understand when they tell her she can't travel with Chibo, she say, what's wrong with that? She say the Prime Minister travel with his too. So she travel with us. The Prime Minister is in Dubai with such regularity, you think Dubai is Trinidad and St. Vincent. And he traveled. Perhaps the Prime Minister hardly stays in the country. The last time I was saying that, as I say, for 14 days, and somebody take issue with me, they say no. 2 weeks, not 14 days. So I give in. Yeah. The Prime Minister is out of the country.
But 2 weeks and 14 days is the same thing?
Well, I doesn't argue much. Half a dozen and six.
Half a dozen and six.
I don't split in hairs over it. But I think even the most hardline NDC that I've met, and I tend to take on some of them. Even my cousin Blash, when you ask him that, he bend in his head. Even him does not agree with the extravagance, the excessive life, the squandering of the public purse. You remember that the government had $50 million for the 50 years celebration. And the government said the Calypso that come first going to get 50,000. And then the government lied. And they deceived the individual and give them 15,000. That must have shocked Scholar. Because Scholar is no dunce man, he's a bright man. So, this level of corruption that is going on in this country is going to break the country. It's going to cause low productivity. Individuals going to lose faith and respect for ministers. We would have to have investigation. You could stay as long as you want. But if you don't have an investigation to clear, not a court case, you know. I listened to Sister Jenny. And I applaud her and proud of her, she brave. I hope she understands that weakness could die. You're dealing with an unscrupulous government. And they know this information that you claim that you have, be careful, because weakness could die. And if the government have a policy of paying money for good relationship, some of the weakness could be bought. It seems where it gets even more frightening. I believe Ron has been speaking the truth. It means that the Integrity Commission is already contaminated.
Compromised.
They gave information that you gave them. The minister was able to access those information. It is frightening how quick money could have buy so much of intellectuals. I'm not surprised. You remember what going in Brexit? It was the ordinary farmers, the ordinary people that said no. You know. The young people that were benefiting the most from Brexit, they didn't go and vote. You know. I encourage doubters, NDC supporters, the lawyers in our country, and union leaders to follow the Puff Daddy case in America and see how much well-renowned artists and celebrities was contaminated by Puff Daddy for decades.
Bad
Even
boy
politicians.
Bad Boy Records.
So when we see how easy it is to close some Grenadians' mouth that had big mouth, I believe that Dick Mitchell is Grenada Puff Daddy.
Bad Boy Records. In the diaper.
Look at the corruption in Parliament. Ask yourself, what is the justification? What is the rationale? What is the reason for the Prime Minister having a cameraman in Parliament? Everything you say in Parliament supposed to be on the Hansard. When Mr. Blaze told Eric Gary that the medical doctors that you're producing in Grenada under SU, they would not even able to perform in Pittimatnik. Pittimatnik people didn't vote for Blaze. You see, there was against the St. George's University. That's supposed to be on the Hansard if the revolution didn't burn all what they in Parliament. Everything is on the Hansard. And today, the Parliament is provided live. So everybody that goes to the Parliament, it is recorded live. So ask yourself, what is the reason? What is the justification for the Prime Minister having his own cameraman and spying on the female members of Parliament? You have to know that in the Parliament, all men are equal. The Prime Minister is no more equal than others in the Parliament. So do you believe that Kate Lewis could come with your cameraman too? Well, she looking better. She have more Nash. She have more blessed assurance. So it might be more interesting to follow Kate with a camera.
Yeah, it makes sense.
What is the justification for the Prime Minister of Grenada having his cameraman in Parliament? We have to ask ourselves this question, you know. Otherwise, our children going to ask, what did our parents do? The level of corruption that is going on in Grenada is unacceptable. How do you explain the yellow list? Isn't that corruption? Government have programs, not the NDC program. It's the government program. So if an individual meets the requirement or the qualification to enter the program, what you have a yellow list for? So after he meets the qualification in nutmeg or cocoa agriculture, they have to look on the list. That is corruption. Have you ever thought about the workers? The impact what the government did to the farmers in Maribor have on the workers in Maribor? The government removed the water that the farmers have been enjoying for over 20 years, over 2 decades. They removed the water from the farmers. And all effort is made to prosecute the Rastaman that object. The minister was found blatantly lying. The same minister that went to Parliament, yes, he have immunity in Parliament, he could lie there. The same minister went to parliament and tell lies. Now, are we concerned about the level of corruption that exists in this country? I have never seen or heard this thing before. Remember, corruption is dishonesty or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. And then the government come with Polaris. Is Polaris that you want to sell the hospital to?
Yeah, Polaris.
And the government is prepared to spend about $6 million a year for Polaris brand. That is for the franchise, you know. Yeah. That's just for the brand. How much millions of dollars Deacon and his gang intend to make from the hospital? A new hospital in Grenada would cost minimum $500 million to build. And you don't talk about retrofitting the hospital yet. You don't talk about retrofitting, that's just for building.
Building?
Only for building. And then the government is spending $6 million a year for Polaris brand. Well, come on. This is the highest level of corruption I've ever heard about. How much $1 million the minister of MIT, Andy Williams, was given for St. Patrick's and St. John? I believe we had to build 200 houses.
500 a month.
How much $1 million? What happened to the $118 million received as a result of burial and the insurance company? How could we defend these things? How could we support corruption at this level? It will cause the economy to go in free fall. We'll have to go back to the International Monetary Fund for another program. Or we may have to design our own program by ourselves.
Trouble.
Where we cut social programs. Already the school children in the school feeding program, the government interfered with it. And you see the negative consequence of it. Carnival coming. Within the ending of June, I do not see any increase in temporary work on the road. Well, again, I'm not surprised because the government decided to plant our route, some of the suggestion, and spray by the road rather than employing people. And the government believe by employing these people on the road, you're making them lazy. That is a policy position. But I think Grenadians are not supposed to be disappointed on this one because during the campaign, the NDC was against these road workers. They say the government was using them and giving them this money and making them lazy. So I'm not surprised. I asked the question, corruption at this biggest level will break this island. It's going to take years to recover. You remember the cry of the Attorney General? She said the IMF want us. He said we're going to cause serious trouble. But you use a more qualifying word. Irreparable damage. Irreparable damage is like when a coconut fall on your head and you start to walk upside it down. Or you believe you're walking upside it down. A coconut fall on your head. Irreparable damage. When you're speaking about corruption in Grenada, imagine the hurricane came. Carriacou was the one damaged the most. You had a 100 house unit in Carriacou. People were given the houses. I think about 90 people were given keys
They take it back.
to work on.
They take it back.
The government took back the keys from the people. The government took back the keys from the people. Where were these individuals who used to always talk about accountability, transparency, and good governance? 1 year after the hurricane, what the government intend to do with the 100 house unit? The Chinese built it. They spoke against the Chinese about it. They said they want Grenadian style houses. But they have the Chinese housing in Carriacou, which perhaps would have valued about $35,000-$40,000. And people would have get those houses and pay for it on a policy of rent to own. So you were not required to go to the bank for it. They will give you a number of years and say you pay $235,000, $3,300 a month for your rent. And that rent money is payment done on the principal. And when you finish pay, you own the house. Most of the householders in Grenada are people over 50 that could build a house. Most of the people who build houses over 50. Unless you have a fairy godfather or your parents leave you high and dry. The government is well aware of that. And the bank would not give you loan. By the time you're 55 years, the bank don't want to give you no money again. The bank say you go dead just now. So I don't want to lend you my money. Because if you're dead, you look good for I'll get back my money from you. And the bank don't generally like to sell poor people house. Why we in Grenada are giving fertilizer, manure to corruption? That's what we're doing. If we don't speak about it, are you not hearing the rumors? Did you not hear that one of the big czars with the NDC paid on $100,000 cash on a piece of property? $100,000 cash, bang, bang.
Where do you get that money?
And the property valued $1 million and something. And he wanted to pay cash too. I understand the law to ball and say, oh God, don't do that. Oh God, don't do that. So they say he end up working with a credit union. He must get any money and they give him a check.
Yeah, they give a check. Which makes sense.
To go and buy property. In under 3 years in government. NDC people buying a property for $1 million and something cash. Understand, one minister had 2 buses running on it.
Still do.
2 buses.
Still at it.
Well, more than one.
You may have 4 now.
More than one. Yeah, women have to. You want the women minister have to.
Yeah, they have to, yeah.
They're buying property all over the place. Cash! The time has come for the Governor General to have set up juries into massive corruption in Grenada and find out what the government did with the 118 million. The millions that was given to Andy to build the houses in the north. How much house he built? You have to go and check the house. You have to go and check the house. The level of corruption in Grenada will break the island. It's going to cause the economy to go in free fall. It's going to contribute to violence in the country. How did we reach there so quick? Why are so much of the Grenadian voices are so silent? Is government using the proceeds from government to bribe people? That's what we're hearing on the ground. I've never heard so much rumors and speculation and stories about corruption in all my band life. This is the worst. And it requires voices to bring back some normalcy in this country. I don't think Deacon has been telling so much lies. And even when the lies presented to him, he's still lying again. And the ministers are following. We saw a number of situations where the ministers seems to have very little respect for anybody, including the police. And I'm afraid, but it appears that the Governor General is becoming complicit in this act. I saw her open hostility to the opposition leader. I consider it as lack of courtly manners, a break with tradition. The Governor General have to appear and seems to be impartial. And she was blatantly arrogant and disrespectful to the Governor General. We heard the cry of the individuals in the returning officer. Well, if an election is held, the person will be a returning officer in Carriacou. That person should be fired. That person is openly and blatantly a militant of the NDC. The NDC themselves should ask her to resign. And the Governor General seems to be complicit in this behavior. And it is not good for the electoral office, because the Grenada electoral office have a very good reputation in the region and the world for fairness and fair play. So once again, corruption at the biggest level in Grenada, that will break this country. It will contribute to low productivity, social decadence, increase in violence. So I appeal to all and sundry. Perhaps we need to go in the mirror and look at the mirror and ask ourselves, how did we deteriorate so fast? Why so much Grenadians that had big mouth recently get so quiet? Are you under Deacon's spell? And remember, I want to research and follow Puff Daddy in America, because I think Deacon Mitchell,
Bad Boy Records,
is Grenada Puff Daddy. I've asked the question, if he's also under some mind-altering substance because of the inconsistencies in his behavior. As we come to the end of the program today, all of us is responsible for what goes on in Grenada. Not Deacon alone. All of us is responsible. We can't plead the fifth. We can't pretend we don't know. All of us is responsible. And it's in our interest to discontinue the level of corruption that is in Grenada and hold those who are responsible, make them account for it. If we don't, the consequences will be borne by all of us. Always remember to subscribe to Studio Galaxy 473 in Confaro. Like and share with program. Thank you very much.
Trending to subject matter, we fear none, we back down. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom, jealous and they in Cuba. Russians and Chinese and lucky like we. Right now, North Korea, wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean, lucky like we. Studio Galaxy Day for you and me.